Let's bring in Fox News contributors Lisa Boothe and Sara. Let's pick it up there where we left it with Mike Waltz. I mean, Lisa, I think there are ways we can get around this kind of anti-Americanism that has seeped into every kind of nook and cranny of the establishment and the media and the academia and whatever. And Congressman Waltz pointed to some of them. What's your take on all of this?
Well, and it has to happen culturally, right? We have to see a cultural shift.
Yeah.
There's too much. You see what's being reinforced in our culture, to your monologue, to the point of your monologue. It's to hate America, not to hatred for America, not patriotism for America. We see it in the movies. We see it when we turn on the media. And we see it at the top with Joe Biden. And there's all this focus on our sins, not our wins as a nation. And it's primarily happening on the left. I mean, you look at every survey, they're less happy, they're less religious, they're less patriotic. And how many Democrats would put a Ukraine flag outside of their house, a pride flag outside of their house, but they would not dare put an American flag outside of their house? And isn't that a problem?
Such a great point, Sara.
Lisa's absolutely right. You know, there were so many people on the left, you'd hear them say, I feel offended by the American flag. I feel offended by being an American, and yet they don't understand that they would put the Ukraine flag out. I think Lisa's point is right on target. I think another point that needs to be made is that the left is really trying to shove the cancel culture and the woke culture on us, on parents as well. We saw that in the school system. We saw the Loudoun County parents first stand up. We saw parents all across the country saying, look, no more. We know that was the reason why Governor Youngkin won the election in Virginia. We see that spreading across the country. And I think when they affected our children, with what happened under COVID, with the lockdowns, with the effect on our children in schools, it was like an awakening for the American people, where the American people in general were saying we're no longer going to be silent. We are going to rise above that. We are going to speak out, because the left was doing all the speaking. And I think now we realize that the only way to take our country back, Steve, is to actually speak out, not be silent anymore.
Yes.
Take the wins to the ballot box. And we're going to see that in the midterms, and we're going to see that in 2024.
That's right. And I think that's why I'm sort of encouraged. The other thing that encourages me, Lisa, is that when you talk to, other parents, you talk to people, one of the things I'm really hearing a lot is precisely because of this indoctrination that goes on, this anti-Americanism in education, in the schools. There's a huge growth in alternative media, other ways for people to learn about and to teach their children real American history and values. Whether that's through podcasts or online, and there's all sorts of ways people are, and history podcasts I've noticed are doing really well, because people are just fed up with the official story. They want to get the real story, the truth about America.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a plug, because I do have a podcast coming out tomorrow with the historian. And the whole point of the podcast is to revisit American history for my podcast, The Truth with Lisa Boothe, because I also believe as adults, we have a responsibility to revisit American history, to understand what do we stand for as a nation, who are we, what is our purpose in life and in this world. And in my revisiting, you really look at the American Revolution, and it started with the Stamp Act. And it was this first internal tax that was levied on the 13 colonies. And the American Revolution was sparked because of the role of government. What's the role of government? What do you want the role of government to be in our lives? And then so that's really where it started, and it escalated from there. And when we look at what we were willing to accept from our government as Americans now, you look at what's happening with the January 6th committee, this weaponization of government against American citizens. That's anti-American. That's not what we stand for as Americans. That's not right. The government, we're not supposed to fear our government. Our government's supposed to fear us. So to Sarah's point, and to the point that's been made, November, we've got to turn out, and it can't be on the margin. It has to be a resounding message that we are taking this country back, and we are returning to American values, and we're returning to patriotism.
Yes. It's like we need the sort of electoral equivalent of the sort of box office success of Top Gun Maverick. Final thoughts, Sara?
Yes. Well, I think Lisa's right. I think Congressman Waltz brought up a great point, that we are the great American experiment, that we are winning, that the rest of the world looks to us for freedom and liberty, and that we live on principle. And I think that's why you said, Steve, we have people coming into our country not trying to run away from it, right? What we're seeing in Hong Kong, what we're seeing in Taiwan, what we're seeing across the globe, where people are standing up for freedom, it's because of us, and it's because what our country represents. And that's what makes us spectacular, and that's what we're celebrating this July 4th, and all the people willing to fight for it.
Beautifully put. Thank you both. Happy 4th to you both.